First and foremost, I'd like to say this is about jobs. This is about Indiana jobs. This is about American jobs and whether we stand up and fight for them. And I feel as a kid, I know probably some of you were, I was a big fan of Superman comics. And there was a character in there, and he was known as Bizarro Superman. And in Bizarro Superman's world, up was down and down was up. And Mr. Chairman, I feel like I'm in the Bizarro testimony here sometimes, where sending money back to the Treasury is a bad thing and seeing jobs go overseas is a good thing. Well, I would disagree with that, and I will say that this senator will fight and fight nonstop to try to make sure that the Ex-Im Bank survives, because it's critical to jobs, to families in my state that when they go home want to put food on the table, take care of their family, and have a decent life for their children. That's what the Ex-Im Bank helps do. And with that note, Doctor, I would like to ask you, do you know who Abro Industries is?
Are you talking to?
Yes.
No.
Do you know who Vertellus is?
No.
Do you know who Polymer Technology Systems is?
No.
Do you know who Advanced Machine and Tool is?
No.
Those are all companies that have benefited from Ex-Im. They are not huge multinationals. They are companies in South Bend, in Indianapolis, in Fort Wayne. And for them, this is not about a theoretical exercise. This is about whether or not they have work to do and whether or not they have products to export. And so I would say that this is the real world. These are the people who the Ex-Im Bank is helping. And then I'd like to ask you, you had mentioned that part of the people who are victimized are taxpayers. Well, here's the taxpayer victimization that has occurred in the last years. 2012, $803 million returned to the Treasury in profits. 2013, $1.056 billion returned to the Treasury in profits. 2014, $675 million returned to the Treasury in profits. Here in Washington and in our government, it drives you crazy sometimes to see programs that we run deficits time after time after time, and here we are with a program that is returning money to the Treasury to help reduce the deficit, and we're attacking the program. It doesn't seem to make any sense to me. They are just businesses back home who are trying to make ends meet and who are trying to sell products. So I think that these are the kind of things that are the real world that we deal with on a constant basis. And Ms. Dempsey, I would like to ask you a question, that as we look at this, there were talk about businesses being penalized by the Ex-Im Bank. One of the companies that I mentioned sells motor oil to Nigeria, sells automotive aftercare products to Saudi Arabia. Do you think that those products, if the Ex-Im Bank went away, that products like that and products sold around the world, do you think it would be a company from Ohio who lost the opportunity, or do you think it would be from somewhere else?
Thank you, Senator. I think it would be from somewhere else. As I noted in my testimony, we have over 60 export credit agencies operating worldwide, much more aggressive than the U.S. The U.S. has been much less export intensive, but when our companies export, it does support jobs, it supports manufacturing. And the companies you cited in Indiana, I'd mentioned Draper as well, a window shade manufacturer, they've all been able to grow their operations by exports. We've not heard of the type of theoretical subsidy or problem that Mr. Eikenson is talking about, or those types of losers. The only question is, when there's a foreign deal, is that deal going to go forward? And that's something the Ex-Im Bank takes a look at, because the Ex-Im Bank is not going to operate to provide services if that deal weren't going forward. But if you have a deal going forward overseas, and the question that the Ex-Im Bank answers is not whether someone in some other industry or any industry in the U.S. is going to be hurt, that deal is going to go forward. The question is whether a U.S. manufacturer or other business is going to participate, whether U.S. workers will be able to work on the products and services that XM would support. And so this is really just about, from our perspective, being able to boost U.S. exports, which is there's a huge amount of gain there, and we're growing exports, but we're not growing them fast enough.